Hello, this is the Mae B Mindful Podcast, and I am your host, Hannah Mae. I'm a mother of 6, conscious birth instructor and educator, spiritual growth facilitator, and certified hypnotist. This podcast is about inspiring hope, expanding awareness and consciousness in order to revolutionize the way we live and experience our lives. You can expect thought-provoking episodes, each week spanning a range of topics, drawing from both my own journey of transformation and healing and working with others. I hope you find this podcast to be informative, refreshing, illuminating, and instrumental in your own soul's evolution and growth. Let's jump right in.
Welcome back to the Mae B Mindful Podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Mae, and I'm coming to you from this ridiculously adorable cottage guest house. So I hope my sound holds up okay. I've got this dress on with this little cutout that is just perfect for this mic to go in, so it's not going to disturb sound with disrespectful interferences like body language that I get excessive with when I talk sometimes. I just wanted to talk about some things today in the light of all things external, because there's a whole lot of shit going on in the world. And actually, there always is. But of course, sometimes our attention gets drawn to certain outstanding issues. They may be out of the ordinary. And if we didn't pay attention to them, it would be weird, right? It would be like, why are you ignoring that person just got shot? Why are you ignoring that this explosion is happening over here, that this fire is getting started over there? Naturally, our attention is going to go towards those things. I'm just watching this incredible thing unfold that's not actually, when I say incredible, I'm not gleeful or happy about it. I'm sort of amazed by how insane people are being driven and how consumed. And this, of course, is not new either. But I'm just witnessing it with people who are normally pretty well balanced, but they're being driven into a state of hysteria because of this hyper-fixation and focus on certain things. And these things outside of ourselves, which these things naturally, when they don't seem good, can disturb us. But I'm watching people be consumed by them, and all their energy and focus is being sunk into these things, and therefore they are in fact embodying the energy of whatever's going on. And this is a danger, because this is a serious disruption to our peace, who we are in the world, and then what are we contributing to the world? Because who we are at any given moment is what we're creating, and what we're embodying is what we're creating, because we're always creating. We're always impacting, and our energy is really important for our own peace of mind and for that way in which we serve, who we are in our communities, who we are in our families, and it matters. So here's what I'm just going to offer. This is not a new concept either, by the way. It's just something I think about a lot, because I've had my own journey with having to really shift from an externalized focus to an internal focus in order to shift my experience here on this planet. And so, there's no problem, okay? Nothing outside of us is our problem. It's not. The only problems that we have to address are within. There's no problem outside of us that is actually the cause of our suffering and pain. There's not. It's the attention that we're giving it, the judgment that we're putting on it, the meaning that we're assigning it, and the way that we're processing this data that is based off of our own belief systems, our ideas, our security structures, our fears, and our attachments. Our attachments to these ideals of what we think we're supposed to look like. And our life is a string of judgments. Judgment's not a bad thing. We're not talking necessarily about condemnation as far as judgment goes, but just basic discernment, just coming to one decision to the next. It's based off of a judgment. But the problem is that a lot of times we're judging something based on our perception, and our perception is oftentimes inaccurate, and it's very limited. Our thinking is actually very finite. We are by nature short-sighted because we see things based on the light of our own experience, and we don't have all the information. We just don't. And, we can get clarity, we can seek clarity, but clarity doesn't bring disturbance and hysteria. Clarity, even though clarity can sometimes be disturbing, and we have to move through either disappointment or grief when we have clarity with something, it brings peace. It brings order. It brings acceptance, which peace follows always. And ultimately, it drops us into homeostasis, and it drops us into alignment in accordance with the flow of life and the divine, because we can accept something, even if it's disagreeable, we can accept something. So how do we move out of this state where we're being consumed or grabbed or gripped by a problem? So as far as solution goes here, if you're needing to shift your state of being and move into a new place, it really comes down to focus and attention. What are you focusing on? What are you paying attention to? Because whatever that is, you're giving your energy to, and you are moving in that direction. If you want to be moving forward, you're not going to look behind you. You're going to be stepping onto the path of whatever that is that you're following with your attention. And that path is going to lead somewhere. So what are you following? What are you paying attention to? And where is it taking you? And if it's to a very undesirable place, then it's worth shifting gears here, and it's worth shifting focus. And so bottom line is, in my opinion, if you want peace, you have to focus on that which brings peace. It doesn't mean we avoid, and it doesn't mean we're not cognizant of the things that might need to be addressed in us, sometimes outside of us. But oftentimes, if we are in a minefield, those explosives are not real. They are perceived. We need to also be able to differentiate the difference between what is a perceived threat and what is a real threat. So it's possible to be cognizant and aware of the things that are disturbing while keeping our focus and attention on the place that we want to be. And so if we want to step into the clearing, then we have to focus on that clearing. Otherwise, we're not going to see it. How are we going to get there? I know what that is for me. I'm very clear on that. So I'm not here to tell you what it is that's going to bring you peace, but I can tell you briefly what it is for me, and I can tell you really what it isn't. And what it isn't is anything outside of myself. It's no external thing, circumstance, or thing that is subject to fluxion and change. For me, it is not the peace that the world fails to deliver. It is the Prince of Peace. It's the source of peace. But that is the thing that sustains and that I can grab onto. That is something solid. That is really a rock that I can hold on to and that can anchor me, or that can in fact sustain me and lift me up above all the bullshit that's going on at any given time, and can also bring restoration and healing to the parts of me that are needing to be addressed, that are being touched on. And like, here's the thing. Everybody has their tipping point, right? If you're seeing people becoming unhinged, they're normally otherwise very together, everyone has their tipping point. Everyone. Nobody's excluded from that. And anything, any fear specifically that is left unaddressed is ultimately, when the right shitstorm comes along, is going to get triggered. So this detachment from this external circumstance can feel so difficult if we're attached and buying into an illusion that the outcome has to be a certain way for everything else to be okay, for us to feel okay. And we have to get right within ourselves. So there has to be, first of all, this open mind that maybe we don't know, maybe our judgment is incorrect, maybe this is obviously requires some humility, and that's an uncomfortable thing because it means we have to step out of our entitled perspective and drop into, maybe I don't know. And it can also be just very challenging because we've bought into an idea. We've bought into something and we really believe it. And you know what? It might be right. It might not be great. The situation could suck. There could be all kinds of things wrong with it. But the fact of the matter is that we still don't know. And like, I don't know about you, but I don't really want to live my life by someone else's judgment of what they think is best. Just like they don't want to live their life and align with my ideals necessarily. Some people might, but nobody's going to agree with me on everything. So therefore, I'm not running the show. Therefore, nobody else is running the show. And we get a little too many cooks in the kitchen with all these opinions and ideas and beliefs. Everyone's free and entitled to have their own belief and opinion. And everybody's free to fight for something and to believe in something. But if we're going to do so with grace and be effective in any way whatsoever, we have to be able to move through it with detachment, with grace, with power. Because if we're dysregulated and we're unhinged and we're so disturbed and distraught, there's no power in that. How do you think you're going to change something? You don't change something that way. We change something by accepting it, by coming to terms with it. And then our action as a result of the clarity that can come from being in that state, that open state, is a thing that's going to give our actions beyond that more impact, because then we're going to be walking very differently. And whether that's like on some big scale or what we consider to be smaller scale, like in our own homes, in our families, in our workplaces. And like, those things aren't small, okay? That's actually everything. That's the foundation of civilization, like who we are at home, what we are growing, what we're cultivating, because that goes out from there. And so aside from your own well-being, which is very, very important, there might be other people that are relying upon you as well to be a constant for them, if you're a parent, for example. So what do I want to say here? So obviously, this concept can translate to anything and everything outside of ourselves, small scale, big scale, current events, anything in your personal life. And the thing that it can also really be applied to is with people. Like people, and the thing that comes to mind for me that I've had a lot of experience with is people suffering or struggling with something whose life path appears to be on a certain trajectory that causes you disturbance, concern, worry. It could be somebody that you love. It could be somebody that just drives you insane, that happens to be in your life, that you can't control, that they're in your life. And you might really believe that things should be different and that they should be acting different. So I'm just going to use as an example a situation where you really love the person and we want what's best for them. In the case of like if you're dealing with an addict or an alcoholic. And it's really interesting because I've had this experience again and again and again where I can think I know what's best. I can see that somebody is not in alignment with their best, their highest self, like the person that they could be, the life that they could be living, the fruits that they could be bearing if they were living a healthy, balanced life. And I can think I know what's best. I can think I know what's best. And obviously, this is not a bad ideal. It would be best if they were those things and they could live up to those things. And nobody else is going to argue with me. Like, it would be best. However, if I am not in acceptance that this is the path that they're on and that I can't actually change it for them, then I'm going to be in conflict and I'm going to be focused on something that I don't actually have control over. And I'm going to be focused on what could be rather than what is. And if I'm focused on what could be rather than what is, then I have zero acceptance. And if I don't have any acceptance with something and I'm in conflict with it, then I'm not at peace. And then I have that conflict within myself. And then basically what I'm doing is I'm attaching to their current state, and I am going to stay. I'm going to be and stay disturbed as long as I am focused on that, with the delusion that it needs to be different, with the belief or the idea. Well, the delusion really is that I can change it. The belief or the idea, which is false, is that it needs to be different, it should be different, rather than coming into acceptance with what is and experiencing, which is why this is so hard, my own disappointment and grief. There's no acceptance in conflict. There's no flow. There's only a fight that happens there. What I'm doing is I am attached to my belief, my idea that I think that person needs to be different so that I can feel better within. That's actually kind of selfish. That's actually pretty short-sighted. This can sound a little harsh, especially if we're talking about like a loved one, like a family member or a child even. But the moment that I accept, and acceptance is very difficult with something like this that can feel very unacceptable, because it means I have to face my own grief. I have to face my own disappointment. I have to face my own sadness. I have to come to terms with these things within myself. But when I do, I'm free. I am set free, because when I have accepted that and I have processed that and I have taken care of myself in this regard, then I can be present and I can be available in a different way. And I had this really powerful experience years ago when I was working with somebody around somebody that was struggling in my life that I loved dearly, that I couldn't change, that I couldn't fix, that I talked till I was blue in the face with, that I tried so hard to enlighten, like as if that's my job, like, and I have the ability to enlighten somebody. And they would even ask me for advice and help sometimes, but then they would continue on with this self-destructive behavior, which was causing so much harm and pain. And she said to me, God's got your number. And I was like, oh my gosh. And the penny dropped. I was like, God's got my number. That actually became a mantra. It became a mantra for a good chunk of time until this belief and this understanding and this concept was really like imprinted and solidified in me, which was like, I will stand at attention if I am called. I will do anything and everything if needed. If this person actually needs or wants my help, I will drop what I'm doing and I will do what can be effective and helpful in that moment. That's not what was being asked of me. I was simply fixated and worrying about something that I had no control over, and it was consuming me. And so basically I was attaching to the energy of this person and their trajectory, and I was embodying that. It was consuming me. I was filled with worry, with negativity, with uncertainty. That is not the state that I'm supposed to walk around in just because somebody else is. I am of no use to myself or anybody in that state. So when I recognized that, okay, first of all, God's got my number, that also implies that maybe God's got this situation. And so then, therefore, I don't have to be the controller here. I'm not God. And I can begin to trust a little. And for me, I really needed to have a visualization around this. I needed to imagine myself placing this person in the loving hands of something bigger than me, because I wasn't doing it. I'm not this person's safety net. I can't be. That would be requiring too much of me. I don't have the ability to be that for anybody. There's another incredible thing that happens here. When we remove our worry, our anxiety, and we pull back, and we step out of their energy field, it's like we remove interference. Because here's the thing. I don't know what's best for this person. I don't know where they are in their journey. I don't know what they need to go through. Shit might have to get all kinds of crazy for that person in order to see what they need to see, to have the insights that they need to have the transformation and change that they need to have, right? And, the sad and devastating thing with addiction, for example, is you don't know if that person's going to have that change or transformation. You kind of have to just hope. But I guarantee you that worrying about it is not going to make that change for them. All it's going to do is cause you more disturbance and pain. So when we step out of their energy field and when we remove interference, I have seen incredible things happen, okay? It's almost like this divine power that just sustains, that upholds, that is in all of this, that allows everybody the freedom to do what they need to, what they want to, and is just sort of waiting, that basically respects everybody's right and everybody's dignity of choice here. Says, thank you, I've got this, thank you. Okay, now you can go be happy. Okay, you can be free. You can love this person. And love, by the way, is very painful sometimes. But loving somebody looks like accepting and respecting and allowing them that same dignity that I believe this loving power respects in us. It's emulating that essentially. And yes, there's unknown in that. There is uncertainty in that sometimes. But therein lies like the surrender. That's the letting go. When we remove control, because this is control, and fear and worry is actually just a form of control, then we're like, oh, I can worry about my own self. I can create, I can give to myself plentifully and those around me that which I'm actually supposed to be paying attention to. So these people are sort of our teachers in that regard, right? We can learn a lot. We can grow a lot. And they don't necessarily make it easy on us, but growth is typically uncomfortable. It just always is. I mean, even like starting from infancy, we grow teeth. Luckily, we don't remember it, but that was an uncomfortable process. I remember it as a mom because I was awake all night, like nursing my kid because they were in pain. But they grew teeth and those teeth got strong and now it serves. I mean, this is part of the human experience, We can't come in thinking that we're going to be exempt from pain, and I think that's what we want. We want eternity bliss now, and the fastest way to that is to accept that this is part of our earthly human condition. But when we move into these experiences and we can shift our gaze from an externalized focus to an internal one, where we can fix our gaze and develop a relationship with ourselves, for me, I'm very clear on what that is. It's the divine within. That is a constant. That sustains, And so I don't know what that is for you. That's a journey for everybody to have to press into if they want that, but it's available and accessible to everybody. Then we're going to be less affected by external volatility, and we're going to attach less meaning to it because we're going to trust that there is some sort of providence at play and that we don't see big picture. Something can worry us. And there's always going to be something that's going to challenge that. There's always going to be something that's going to rock us. And it's going to be different for everybody. What might rock you and disturb you, somebody else is going to be totally at peace with, which tells you that it's not about the circumstance. It's about what's being affected or challenged in you. It's an amazing experience to be able to sail through a storm and stay tethered and anchored to our center into something constant where we know we're safe. We know we're protected. Because think about that. If you knew everything it was you needed to know to eliminate those fears, then you would be okay. And then you wouldn't need to stay hyper-focused on something and worry. And worry, like I said, is just a form of control. It's just an illusion of control that we can change something. And it's not that you might not be called to change something. We might be called to create change. We're only going to create change if we're coming from a place of truth and power, and we're centered and grounded in that anyways. So one of my favorite books, and I'm just going to leave you with this. Oh, it's a book recommendation. Go read Left to Tell if you want. It's kind of intense. It was one of the most powerful things I've ever read. I don't finish books, okay? I actually don't finish them. I start reading books and I read 10 at one time and I get bored, no matter how good the book is. But I read this book from cover to cover in a week. And this was when I had, I think, 4 or 5 small children. So I didn't have time to read, okay? I did not have time to read. I generally don't even have the attention span to read for long periods of time. But I could not wait to get into bed and read this book every night because I hung on every word and I had to know what happened next. And it's called Left to Tell. And I hope I don't botch her name, Immaculée Ilibagiza. I think she survived the Rwandan genocide. And it's the most beautiful, incredible story of faith, transcendence, forgiveness, unreal. So much tragedy, so much pain, so much sadness. And in that, through hiding in this bathroom for 90 days with, I think 6 or 8 other women, and this heavy spiritual reliance and communion, very intimate communion with, she's Catholic, with Christ, where she received all kinds of lights and illuminations. She was really sustained in this horrific circumstance where she found out horrific things, like how her family met their death. She had to grieve the loss of her family and loved ones quietly while she hid in this bathroom while she was being hunted. And it was just incredible. Now she's this incredible inspirational speaker and wonder of a woman. So this is perfect example on a very extreme scale, right? But this is what's accessible and possible. So something like that is possible. Obviously, it's accessible and possible with like how we're viewing political and current events, right? Come on. Like, seriously. We just need to get out of our own way is the issue. And detach, which is our biggest challenge. And then we're happy. End of story. Bye-bye detachments. Hello happiness. We can have peace, you know, and we're not attached to those things that are causing us pain. Anyways, I love you guys. Be well. Until next time. Ah!
Thank you for tuning in to the Mae B Mindful Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. For more information, resources, and exclusive content, visit our website at maybemindful.com or go ahead and follow us over on Instagram at Mae B Mindful. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please give me a follow, screenshot the episode, and go ahead and tag me until next week when I bring you another thought-provoking and inspiring topic. Until then,